All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. Happy afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Kyle. I am the one of the solutions architects here at Decisions, and happy to be working with you guys today. Typically, we start these things out with any kind of pre-submitted questions, which I don't believe we have any today. So I did want to open the floor. I do have a few things we can run through and share, but I did want to open the floor here just in case if anyone did have any questions that they wanted to ask. I see we have David, Jeremy, and Joshua. Hello. Does anyone have any particular questions or want to run through anything?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you hear? Hello?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. Okay, yeah, I was just sorry. Okay. Can you limit the number of entities returned on a fetch entity step?
Yes. Let's go ahead and take a peek. Can you all see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. So let me see, on a fetch entity step. So you're wanting to put a limit on how many.
Yeah, I only want like 100, or I know you can chunk in a for each, but can you just limit it in the first place?
Yeah, you can do that right here on the fetch step itself. So on a fetch entity step itself,
Is
on limit results.
Okay, let me see, because is that in 6 also?
I do not have a localhost set up for 6. We can confirm that. And to check and see, I can kind of write a quick question, see if anyone has that up and running. So if you give me a moment, we can check and see. I believe that limit should be there, or some kind of a limiting field. Do you not see one in your version of 6?
I don't. I don't think I did. I looked a few times. Let me just pull a step in here for a second here. Shoot, this in production. Oops.
And also, I believe in our documentation, we can go back down to version 6. We should be able to.
Yeah, I have a type. I have the extension type. Checkbox for fetch deleted entities. Show path from one result. Combine filters using and. Then I can all the fetch criteria. Sort field, sort order field, fast fetch edit copy of entity, and read uncommitted data. That's all I have.
Yeah, see that here on the side. So that might not be available in 6.
Okay.
You could do this. So how are you currently? So you're fetching everything and then you're looping through a certain number of iterations. Is that what you're doing?
I'm looping. I wanted to loop through all of them, but the problem is that when I loop through all of them, it ends up writing a string that's too big for what I need the string to be. So I need to write a shorter string. So my idea was to chunk it. I just need to test the chunking. But yeah, so I think my solution should work. I just have to test that.
Okay. I'm also reaching out, and just in case if I do get an answer before the end of this session, we can loop back around to this.
Okay, great.
So yeah, thank you very much letting us know. I do believe that so it looks like that may have been released in it looks like 7.5 is when that was actually added. There may be a way for us seeing if there's a little bit of a more graceful way to limit those in 6 though. So stand by while I get some ideas here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. And any other questions?
Also, yeah, so I had emailed this question to the person who sends out the invitation. Is there a separate email I'm supposed to send questions to if I want them on the as a pre-submitted question?
Yes. Now the exact email, I would keep me honest here. Decisions team, what would be who are we emailing to get those questions sent in? I do believe it is who hosts it.
As far as I know, the questions can be pre-submitted on the same link that you sign in. Have you seen that section, Joshua? Where you register? Does it give you an
Yeah.
option?
Oh, so put them on the register. Put them on the register.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll try that next time.
Yeah, that way we can prepare for the question before or by the time you log in to the webinar. Then
Okay.
we already knew what you wanted, to go over.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and thank you so much. And thanks, Josh, for the question. Joshua, did you have any more questions?
I am good at this time.
Okay, awesome. Unless there's any other questions from the group, I had a couple demonstrations lined up. We can go ahead and get started on that. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is using permission-based, essentially using permissions in groups to to essentially hide and show certain elements on top of a form. Now, this is common in to use, but taking it a bit step further, right? We see that sometimes clients, customers, use cases, we have a form and we have small variations to this form depending on people and individuals that need to view it. A lot of times, the solution that is provided or developed is say if we have 3 separate groups that will be viewing a form with similar information, but based off of their permissioning, we want to, one person may see all the fields, second person may see and then all the fields, but see an entire extra grid for that, something that's it's a little bit more robust than just hiding and showing a couple fields here and there. A lot of times we'll see separate forms that are being made. So I'm going to show you some ways that you can cleverly do this with leveraging the groups while also doing everything on the same form. So that's what we're going to be working through today. So in order to achieve that, I've already set up, let me go ahead and duplicate this tab. I've already set up a couple test accounts to try this out with. So just to show you all that, it's in security accounts. So I have my 3 test accounts. We're going to go and make 3 groups for this. Okay. So I'm going to make this test group 1. Test group 2. And oops, test group 3. All right. Now, in addition to that, to make this is thinking just a little ahead, I'm going to want to test in experience what these all see to make sure that these visibility, in these groups work. So in order to do that, I could simply log in, log out of my account and log back in. But to speed things up, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up impersonations. This will allow me to stay logged in as me, but then simply impersonate that person. So I'm going to so I'm first going to start with test account 1. I come down here to allowed impersonations, right? Now, when setting this up, bear in mind, this is a great way to see, see the environment, assuming the role of this person. And this is a way to say, like, I can come in here and see, remove, it's essentially, taking away maybe as like the admin role, you want to see what they are seeing. This is a really great way to do that. You can also set permissioning to where, or not permissioning, but actual start and end dates for this. So this can expire. But for now, for these, because this is on my local, it's safe to say this never expires. I'm going to put my email in here. And I'm going to do that same thing for test account 2 and 3. There you go. So what we've set up, I have my test accounts. We've set up our test groups. In addition to that, I can now impersonate them. And how I impersonate those roles is simply coming into here. And I can go to log, should give me a login as, give me one moment. Perhaps. Where's the cache? We'll give that a minute to catch up. Typically what we'll see here is we'll see a login as ability, and that'll give me the ability to come in here and then log in as each one of those individuals. But for now, so we'll give that some time to load up. I'm going to go ahead and get these accounts added to some groups. This will be test group 1. Test group 2. Now I could set the permissions on the form, the rules that we're going to be making. I could set those for the individuals themselves, which in some cases is needed, but for the most part, we do want to make sure that everybody's assigned to some sort of a group. Assigning individuals is not as scalable as making sure everyone's inside of a group. All right. So everyone's a part of a group. Let's go ahead and get building. So I made this playground flow, which I'm already inside. All right, so in here, what do we need? Let's first start with just building something pretty basic. We're just gonna get a form. All right, pretty arbitrary name. All right, so first I'm gonna just, get some general navigation in here. Everyone's a bit different. I prefer these 120 pixels on each side, just feels good for buttons, right? This one star in the middle is just, this is our resizable bit. This may be common knowledge, but just so everyone kind of is on the same page. By default, this grid is going to give us this footer grid is going to give us a 30 plus. This allows this to grow. I am going to change this a bit. I actually want to define, because I want where my button sits, I actually want that to be a fixed row. And I want everything above and below it to be what expands. So that way we don't, if someone maximizes the window, we don't have a giant buttons. And then we're going to get rid of, since I added those, we're gonna get rid of these and we're gonna add our buttons. And this is gonna be our, I'm probably not gonna do much with these, but at least it'll give us some outcome paths. There we go. All right. Now let's go ahead and get some, call this, we do want to name these grids, right? And I'll show why it's important. These are already named out of the gate, bottom bar. I like to call these a bit different. Okay. I did hear someone come off mute. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, hi, Vineet here. So basically, I have a requirement like we have some configuration file, and we would like to modify those configuration file, and wanted to do a create out of after that uh, basically a zip file, and then that zip file wanted to move into SFTP location.
Okay, so I apologize, it was a little difficult here. So we are creating files and we want to edit those files, was that correct?
Yes, we have some files already.
Okay,
Those configuration file, we wanted to do some modification in that file based on the customer, and then these files details, after that we wanted to create out of that a zip file. The zip will contain some folders and others file, multiple folders and multiple files it will have.
okay. So you have files, right? And are those files stored in decisions?
Yeah, that is also I wanted to know, like some pre-existing file we have, some configuration file we have. So where to keep this file? Some like some folders we have, where to keep this file?
Okay, so we're talking about storing files inside of decisions. Right? And are you asking like what the best practices surrounding how to
Yes,
store
yes,
files in
yes,
decisions?
yes.
Okay. So there's a couple different ways. So we'll take a break from this, everybody. So there's a couple different ways to store files in decisions. I'm going to pull this off to the side here. Now, so first, let's talk about, you know, there's multiple kinds of structures, right? Now, when we say file, is this like a document that we have, or is this like you have a file with data in it?
Okay, so we have basically a zip, one folder we have. Inside that we have some another folder, nested folder we have, and these folder will contain a .txt or some .csv kind of file, which
Okay.
will have some data in that and some placeholder. So we need to change this placeholder value as per the customer. So this will be kind of a standard configuration file we have, and the data inside of this configuration file need to be modified based on the customer details. And then after that, we need to create a zip file, and that zip file will again have those folders and multiple files, the modified files.
Okay. So for the first part of that, are you saying, so we have multiple, so it sounds like we have data stored in decisions, right? And that data is stored nested inside of folders, correct? So we would
Yes.
have, so it sounds like we have almost like a folder, right? So this is going to be like our parent folder. And then inside of here, you're saying we have another folder. And this folder could be specific to that, data A. And inside of data A, so we have our parent data folder inside of data, and we can have multiple folders in here, right?
Okay.
Data B. So you're saying that in each one of these, we could have multiple documents. We could have a docx file, a CSV file, so on and so forth. Did I follow you correctly so far?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so now we have this here. Are you saying that you want to be able to point to a specific document inside of here and make modifications to it?
Yeah, so these kind of like template files or this template configuration files, these folders have, and based on each customer, those information we need to update in this, and then we need to create. So for suppose customer 101, this information we need to modify in these folders and inside of these files, right? These files will do some modification, and then after that we'll have one zip file folder which will have the same structure but updated details. Later on, some for customer 102, similarly we'll do some modification in these files, and we'll have after that we'll create a zip file. So these kind of standard templates we have, and based on the customer, we are doing a modification into the file. And after that, we wanted to make a zip file after that.
Mhm. Now, are you saying, you're saying zip file?
Yeah, after modification, the same structure, we wanted to keep all those things inside a zip file.
Got it. So you're wanting to create a zip file. So once you have this, so all of your modified files in here, you want to be able to zip that.
Yes.
Okay. So trying to think here, more than likely what you would have to do is creating, we probably have to go down the path of file referencing. So in decisions, so here, and especially if you wanted to, we have the data that's inside of that. I'm trying to think the best possible route to go about this. So we want to be able to modify the documents. Now, modifying of the documents themselves could be a pretty robust process, depending on what kind of document that you're modifying. So this can be taken, so we can go down this path in a couple different ways. But I guess we can kind of start from the top and work our way down. We have our parent folder, and then inside of here, we're going to have multiple data folders. Each one of those is going to have multiple documents, and we need to be able to modify the data inside those documents, and then also be able to zip this up and send it off. So modifying documents inside of decisions. Now, for Excel and CSV, we have steps, right? Where we can, sorry, where are we at here? We do have steps.
Yeah,
our
so
toolbox.
data which the file format will be either .txt or it is kind of CSV or .dat file.
Yeah, so CSV and Excel, for an example, right? You know, if we have those stored, we can convert these into reports, or, you know, essentially we can bring all of this in and we can say, okay, so we can take the rows that are on this CSV, we can generate them rows into a certain type, right? And then from there, we can then interact with it in how we need. And then alternatively, once we're done, we can then take that data after we've interacted with it, either on a report or a form, and then from there we can convert it back and then get it stored back. Now, a document is going to be a smidge different. We can, for doc files, right, we can append and add, but as far as being able to say, like, open up a Word doc inside of decisions and modify it and resave it, more than likely what would have to happen is, if that's the experience you want for a doc file, we would have to essentially download it, modify it in your Windows app, and then re-upload it, if that makes sense. As far as from the point of being able to modify. Does that make sense?
To update this information, we need to convert these files because the file extension we want it to be same.
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends. Now, mind you, if you're using, say, decisions to store this information, right? Like, we are looking, I want to store these documents inside of decisions, but then I want to modify them externally. That's different. But if we are looking to have the ability to store the documents and modify them inside of decisions, that's what I was saying, is that there's a couple different processes that would have to take place. One of them is we would have to, you could have, your list of documents here. Like, for instance, we could bring in a simple Excel sheet here. We could have right-click actions on it that say, I want to edit this. And then what that flow could do is then take that document, convert all the rows into data that we then can actually interact with. We're able to do this because of the nature of the format of CSV. But with, like, say, a Word document, that could be a little bit more difficult. We can alter and edit a Word document, but doing so, it's not as, dare I say, user-friendly as, say, like using an actual, like, Microsoft Word app. You know, we can extract the text from it. We can modify it in a, like, rich text editor. We can send it back, so on and so forth. It just really depends on the kind of experience you want. And that is from the point of view of modifying documents stored inside of decisions.
Okay, so wanted to understand if you wanted to use this file as a template for all the customers, whatever the customer's request we have, we wanted to generate the customer specific file, the information in that file, and that need to be zipped. So for the next customer, the same thing, we need to modify these files and create the details and put into that zip. So
understood. Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding you, and I apologize. So you're saying you want to have almost like a template. Yeah, and I think that you did mention that, is that you wanted to have almost like a blank template document, and you want to be able to say, I need, here's my list of template docs. If I get a new client, then I need their kind of initial configuration, as you said, for this folder to be copied from this template. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, yes, absolutely. I believe there's a couple different ways, but I think we should be able to copy we may have let me see here. Moving this out of the way. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if we have the ability to duplicate, to essentially clone a folder. It doesn't appear that we have a step here in our folder service to automate that. So what you could do is you could essentially create a folder, right? So we can have the ability to, so you know that you need to create a folder. You can place, the name, you can set up a folder ID, the parent folder, right? And then inside of that, you could, inside of that folder, you could also, you could then have those clone documents, because you would know where those are, those locations and those IDs. And you can say, hey, inside of this, I want to make sure I'm adding this, this, and this. Now, in addition, this is just this is like a folder. This is creating like this right here, this subfolder. What you could do is you could also treat this as data, as like a data structure. So we could go to create data types integration. We have our folder extension, right? So this is actually, we're treating this as an entity, right? But it has folder behavior, so we can store objects inside of it. So you could ultimately fetch this, because now this is a folder extension type. You could fetch this object, including the items that are inside of it. and copy that object. So for example, that would look kind of like if we went, let's just call this template data folder. Or no, let's call this right. And itself is going to have, name. It's already going to have an entity name tied to it. This can have various object let's say, this is just for example. So we'll say field A, field B, and these are defining the folder itself, right? It has something like type. We can initialize this as template. And then here, so now that that's been created, if we wanted to store, let me see, so it's been made there. Let's go back into here. We can then, so if we wanted to create, say, should have a file reference service. So what you could do is okay, so going back to our file reference, right? So our file reference object, so you would have those 3 template objects, right? So the 3 template files. And so those would be, what was that? Load from file data. So first, you would have to use this step. And what this does is that you would pick then your whatever file you wanted to set. So this would be like your doc file. This could be like your Excel file, and this would just be like your initial setup, right? And this could be just CSV. And you would set all of these up. And what this would do is this actually adds a file to the file reference folder on the machine itself. This isn't something that's stored inside of decisions. But then what we have is that now we have a file reference object. And that's what this is. So this would be something like this is your doc file. This is your Excel file. Right. And then using these, right, you can actually then store those. We would have to make one more structure, right? So this could be something like this structure could be, an entity, for instance. And this could be file, just something, let's not call it file. File for data. This could be our reference. I'm putting this together pretty quick, so there's probably a bit more of a graceful way to do this, folks, but on the fly, this could, assist with your solution. So it's a, oops, sorry, reference. There we go. So then what we could do is now we have this entity data type that we just made, file for data. You can create that. Right? And then the item to create is this file reference that we set up. And now it can be, we would essentially want to add 3 of these, and we would add them to the folder that we would have created. So to kind of get this roundabout example here, let's let me move this thing around to the side. There's our document data folder. We're going to go and create one. And the folder name for this is going to be, let's call this one template docs. The parent folder ID is going to be, if we do constant, it should give me a picker. Yep. We're going to call this the parent data folder that we made earlier. Folder description, this will be template. Let's call this to be used as a template. Right. And then for extension data, right, we have these couple fields. The only thing we really probably care about is this. And this one we're just going to put as template. All right, so I'm going to create this. So this way this template folder is made, just so you can see that this has created a folder. So now if we look here, inside of parent data folder, here it is. I now have template docs, which is a folder. So I can physically click this folder, and now we would have data in here. Okay. Following along so far, I know this is a bit, there's a bit of setup here, but there's several different ways to attack this, and copying, taking template data, setting up template data and copying that is, there are many different ways you can go about it, and it does make for a lot of efficiency, but which way to go is, it can always prove a little difficult. So in this case, we've created our folder, right? And here we have our various doc files. Now, for the sake of this example, I'm just gonna, excuse me, pick a, like a really simple thing here. This is just like a basic data thing. I think all of these are going to be, this little, oops, nope, right here. These are all going to be CSVs for the sake of, whoops. These can be any that we want. Or you know what, let's add, we'll add a, I got this. There you go. So here's a document file. Let's get in a proper Excel file. Okay. Oops. All right. So we're going to come back over here. We're going to get this parent. So being that we're going to always be using this as our template folder, I can safely copy. You can hard code this, because we always know that this will be our template folder, right? So I'm going to use this as my folder ID. And what this folder ID is saying is, should give me the ability to. Nope. Okay, so we're going to pass in. All right. Looks like we may have to do this. Let's see if it'll allow us to do that. May not like it. We'll see. Yeah, it didn't like that. Well, for data, it's an entity data type. Let's try this again. Let me just confirm the data type that we made here. Could be the culprit. Oh, yep, because well, for data, that is an entity. Should have been a folder entity. Okay, let's give this a shot. To create. For now, let's toss this here. We'll say this is going to be our folder ID. We could also fetch that. So we could fetch that and see. Let's see if we can pass that ID in. All right, let's see what we passed into it. Oh, and I think I know why. So that's my fault, folks. All right, if we get the one thing that is, so this is an entity data type. So the one thing that's really, really important about entities, so unlike, simple database structures or maybe flatter structures, right, where we're not storing them inside of folders, they require a name. We have to define a name. So for this, we are going to call this is CSV for data actually we can call this one template CSV. There we go. And then we're going to call this next one. This will be template doc. And this will pass in that doc file, right here. And okay. And then last but not least, our CSR, we made the CSV, now we want to do the Excel. There you go. So now if we go into template docs, we now see that all three of those live here. So this is an object that we can now copy, mimic, so on and so forth. Does that help a little bit? I know that took up most of our time just walking through how to actually get like a template system set up. But that is, and I do apologize, I'm not sure if you can hear that. There's a bit of construction going on outside my window here, so hopefully that's not too loud. But does that help at all?
Yeah, the same kind of stuff we need. And yeah, after this modification of this template, the zip file we need to create and we need to upload. So that creating a zip file, do we have something here?
Being able to zip a file, believe that we have. Zip files. So zipping we would have to look into. Zip files. So we have list of file data. So yes, so if we wanted to zip this, now these are file references, right? So these aren't, we don't typically like to store the file data itself because of how large it can be. So we store a reference to it. So what you would have, and for we are coming up on time, but what you would do, right, is that we would simply, using the references that were created, which are now stored, right? You can then use those references to get the file data, and then from there, you'll then pass in those files into this zip file step. Create the name, and then it's going to output a single zipped file data. Now, for more information on file referencing and how to leverage it, I'll go ahead and for both version 7 and version 6, I can toss this in the chat. Should be the same. It's slightly different.
Yes, I'm using version 6 only. Version 6.
Okay. Yep, not a problem. So I'm tossing. So this is just for any individuals who are using version 7. This is the link that you're going to use, and then for version 6, this is the link that you will use here. And this will walk through a bit more deep dive on how file reference works and how to leverage that.
Sure. Thanks a lot. I'll go through this document, and if I have anything doubt or anything, I'll come back and ask you.
Absolutely, please do. And just for and just in case, if you do have any other questions, let me. I know that my email was up there before. Feel free, if you have any, you can reach out here to me directly.
And one more question, I will get these steps which you have shown us. So any chance can I get this?
This format right here?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me, I can certainly export this and send it out to you. Could you send me your email, please?
Sure. Let me message you.
Yeah, and you can email me if you'd like, instead of posting it in the chat. You can also just email me
No
directly.
problem. That's fine.
All right. I know we have a few minutes left. Do we have any other questions before we wrap up today's Lunch and Learn?
Next time you present, can you do the rest of the permissions thing if there's time?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry. Always want to prioritize any kind of questions that are brought up, but absolutely.
No, obviously, no, I obviously I understand.
Yeah.
I've always found permissions to be very intriguing, and they always mess me up. So any learn-ins on permissions is good. Also, do you know if there's any upcoming training, upcoming certifications, like what the situations with that? Do you know how that's going?
Yeah, decision certifications. Where and this is for the other decisions individuals on the team, other panelists, Maurice and Sabrina. Where is there a place to see that schedule, or do we have that handy as far as a certification training?
We'll need to follow up with him and give him the schedule.
Okay.
So Josh, I'll go ahead and follow up with you with the schedule via email.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Because I did.
Absolutely.
I'm first round done, but I'd like to go up another round or two if I
Sure,
can, so.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And I will be presenting again. Here decisions, we like to take turns, so that way it's all different, sorts of knowledge gets to be brought to these meetings. But I will be presenting again on the 31st. And since we didn't really go too deep into the permissioning on that form, we'll probably just continue on with that demo if there's no questions. Well, perfect. Well, everyone, it's been an absolute pleasure. And if if y'all need anything else in the meantime, please reach out. Thanks for hopping in, and thanks again. Appreciate everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.